Hi there, I hope you've had a good week. We're coming to the end of the week, but we're also coming to the end of a series of teachings of Jesus in the book of Matthew. It started with the Beatitudes and going through different teachings about rewards and about the kingdom of heaven, what it's like to follow Jesus. And now we're coming to the end in Matthew chapter 10. And in this passage, it's really, for me, looking at this question about what counts for you, what matters. Because in life, when we make decisions, there's always something that goes through our head where we check with something first. What's the impact of this? What does such and such a person think? And I think Jesus is challenging us as followers of Christ to put him first, that he is the first in our thoughts and that we follow him. Because if we read this is in Matthew chapter 10, and we're reading from 26 through to 42. It starts where he's telling his followers to go and be bold, to not be ashamed of the gospel. And this is outworked in so many small things. Like even today, I was doing something for work and it was asking me about myself. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, I won't put on the fact that I'm a Christian or I'm a pastor. I'll leave that off. But I thought, no, I'm going to put it on because that's who I am. I'm not ashamed of that. And actually, I want people to know. I do encourage you on that whenever you go out, you get these small opportunities to actually share about yourself to people that they might then ask questions or something might happen. And you need to be ready and willing to take those opportunities and not hide, to not be ashamed. And so we need to be ready to think about that. And so one of the things is saying, well, are you worried about what people think? Because the opinion of God needs to be more important to us than the opinion of other people. So it's always putting his opinion above that of others. He then talks about family and how family would turn. And again, people will often put family first. They'll say, family comes above everything. And so often our feeling of duty to family can sometimes stop us from following him faithfully. I know that one thing I do, and it's not a massive thing, but every year for the past, I think, 8 years or something like that, I've gone to India. And part of that is a sacrifice of my annual leave, my time, money, that I go to India, and my family sacrifice for that. But actually what I believe is by putting God first, then they receive a blessing through that we are blessed by God through that. And that comes through again and again, that God is saying, when you put me first, when you follow me, that's when the reward comes, that's when the blessing comes. And it's encapsulated in the verse where in verse 39 it says, whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And that's the truth. We're trying to find life. We're trying to find the solutions and the answers. And again, who are we trusting with that? Are we trusting our own wisdom, our self-reliance, our great thoughts, or those of the world? Or are we going to trust God? Because actually, when we surrender our life, when we say, I'm going to do it God's way, not my way, not anyone else's way, I'm going to do it God's way, that's when we find life. And so there's a call for us today to lay down our lives and to follow him. And so there was one last thought, just as I was thinking of this, is that there's a whole process, and God is very clear on this, that there is a reward. And as we say no to ourselves, he says yes to us. He is for us. He is not against us. He loves us. He's a good father. It says that elsewhere. He won't give you bad gifts. He is for us, and he will reward those who put him first. As we've looked in the previous chapters, it's not always going to be easy. You may be mocked. You may be ridiculed. But the most important thing is that day when you stand before him and he acknowledges you and says, you acknowledge me before men, I acknowledge you before the Father. And that we come and God will be known by God. And I hope for you that's the most important thing that would drive you. And if there's any fear, I encourage you just to now pray and just say, God, I want to put you first. And I know I don't always put you first, but I want to. And so will you lead me? Will you give me the boldness? And I believe God will lead you in opportunities to do so. And you need to take those opportunities. And that's when you find you will enter into life.